Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of August. It's a very dear friend of mine's birthday, so that's exciting. And I hope you don't mind, I'm gonna move that. It's in my line of sight. So it's the regular city commission meeting, and thank you everybody for coming. We are going to convene the meeting and ask for the roll call.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Scott Wilson. Here. Commissioner Rocky Smith. Here. Commissioner Adam Marl. Here. And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you please, if you are able, stand and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight we don't have any ceremonies or proclamations. The one that I was going to have on our agenda tonight is postponed until the 3rd, and you don't want to miss that. It's going to be very exciting. Involves the Run for Oregon Community Colleges. But we do have, we do not have any. Is anybody who would like to speak under public comments that is an item that is not currently on the agenda? We do have some comments, but it's not for items that's later on in the agenda. So nobody for items that are not on the agenda. Okay, well, we'll move on then to number 5, which is presentations. And I'm going to turn that over to Chief Davis, please.
Mayor, Commission, good evening. Tonight we have Ann Haynes from Oregon City Together and other members that are going to give a final update to the Commission from the final status of the Youth Opioid Prevention Grant Program that was awarded to them for the 24-25 grant period. I'll turn it over to Ann.
Thank you so much for joining us. And just move that, it moves closer, so you don't have to lean over so far. Just move it right where you need it.
Thank you. I better put these on too. My name is Ann Haynes, and I've got Robin Bergeron with me from the coalition. I've also got several other members back here. We've got Betty Mumm, Chris Groner, and Brian Shaw from Oregon City Together. Good evening, Mayor McGriff, commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you tonight. Over the past year, Oregon City Together has been working in partnership with Oregon City Police Department and Oregon City on our Youth Opioid Prevention Grant. The focus of this grant has been prevention through awareness, and our youth took the lead in shaping that effort. Our student team developed and launched a youth-led mental health awareness campaign built around the message that resilience isn't born, it's built. The campaign reached their peers in schools and online and in a lot of other ways, and helped open conversations about stress, coping, and support. Conversations that are critical in preventing substance misuse. I've put together a short video that you're about to see that will provide a recap of the work, highlighting our students' creativity, the partnerships that made it possible, and the impact we're beginning to see in the community. We're proud of what our youth have accomplished this year, and we look forward to continuing this important work, hopefully, through the Enhancement Grant Project. So, take it away.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to share a recap of our recent youth mental health promotion campaign, powered by our partnership with Oregon City Police Department and Oregon City. We are grateful for this partnership as well as our collaboration with Oregon City School District to help increase protective factors for our youth and keep our community safe. This grant project included the following: youth-driven mental health campaign, evidence-based blues program training and implementation for youth identifying as anxious or depressed, and community awareness campaigns including in-person events focusing on brain-savvy coping skills. We had a total of 30 students at Oregon City High School who received leadership training by Nigel Wrangham and who went on to help create the mental health campaign. We also had 8 students at Oregon City Service Learning Academy receive the 6-week session of the Blues program. This is an evidence-based program showing success at helping teens improve their mental health. We also were able to send 2 OCSD 62 professionals to the Blues training. The OCHS students' process included assessment of their peers and community, crafting problem statements, looking at local conditions, strategic planning, brainstorming, leadership and primary prevention training by Nigel Wrangham, creative design decisions, and campaign strategy. Group sessions at OCHS focused on factors that lead to resilience, social connections, problem-solving skills, safe environments, safe and competent adults, healthy lifestyle, and controlling emotions. The students focused on specific questions on each of these factors and what types of messages they would like to share with their peers about each of them. Each factor's outline was considered by the group and by individuals and voted on. Problem solving and controlling emotions were deemed to be the most important to move forward with. After more group process, the youth decided on the message, resilience isn't born, it's built. And, now that they have their slogan, they worked on the campaign strategies. They included posters, branded bracelets, and stress relief bricks, an engraved brick at Elevate Plaza, DIY resilience banner, OCT website, community and school events, social media posts and ads, and a billboard. Here's a look at the campaign materials. The youth also wanted to have a lunchtime event and invite their peers to sign the resilience banner with ways that they build resilience. Some students even shared positive uplifting messages with others. We were grateful to have such a good turnout. We even enjoyed having Mayor McGriff, Chief Davis, Captain Edwins, and SRO Plummer join us. In conjunction with the Children's Center and Alliance Charter Academy, we decided to hold a Thriving Together event featuring a Zoom webinar with Dr. Crystal Collier and a showing of the film Angst. Our focus was on understanding youth anxiety and depression and providing healthy coping skills for teens and parents. OCT also attended and presented at the district's Voyages events for middle and high school bound students. We presented about brain-savvy coping skills to several parents and students and passed out campaign materials to all in attendance. Here's a couple of our social media posts and ad campaigns. Another way we were able to spread the resilience message to the larger community was with a little press coverage from our banner signing event. Now, let's look at the impressive outcomes for this youth-led effort. Our original goals were: 1. Increased awareness of healthy options to reduce stress and anxiety among leadership group and general school population. Measured by our pre- and post-surveys, students reported a 25% gain in coping skills and a 24% improvement in emotional regulation. 2. Decrease 11th grade stress, anxiety, depression by 3% by 2025. Measured by the Student Health Survey 2024, 11% of 11th grade students reported excellent mental emotional health. That's a 5% increase over 2022. 3. OCSLA/OCHS Youth Group is engaged and active. More than 35 students are involved and receive leadership training, 36 students engaged in training and campaign implementation, and 4. Awareness campaign in schools and in community, 69,867 youth reached and 17,118 parents reached, not to mention the 223,560 billboard viewers. We are grateful for the partnership with OCPD and Oregon City and believe we were able to create some fantastic outcomes for our youth. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for watching. And as you can see, when we empower our young people, they rise to the challenge and become powerful messengers for prevention. You've all got a little bit of our campaign materials that I passed out. We actually have extra if anybody would like a squeezy brick. These are awesome for stress relief. Also, you can see our banner back here where the kids signed what they feel like helps them build resilience. And I actually love seeing the kids who, instead of writing what they thought built their resilience, they wrote messages to help build others' resilience, which I thought was really, really kind. And then this campaign is just the beginning. While we saw the outcomes with 11th graders that related to their estimate of their emotional mental health. Unfortunately, the trend related to stress, anxiety, and depression is still holding steady, and it's actually up a little bit in our sixth graders. So obviously, there's more work to be done to continue reducing this risk factor. And we certainly hope to expand these efforts, reach more students, and strengthen the protective factors that keep our youth healthy and safe. Thank you. Anybody questions or comments?
Gentlemen? So you've given us the bricks, and then we have some wristbands, and then there is Scott opened it right away. The blue container is
Yes, thank you. I didn't even mention those. Those are prescription locking bottles that you can put in things that you don't want your kids to get a hold of, and you scan the QR code on there, or use the code on there and get your way to lock it. Yeah. And, that way we keep kids safe. So we've been passing those out at all the events.
Well, I think you're the only one that's got the kids. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say I appreciate, the work you guys are doing. In my professional career, I work with youth and adolescents, and I know, how important this is. So, yeah, genuinely, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Mike?
I would just thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks, Mike.
Rocky?
I'll just say, working at the high school, I've seen so much activity on the walls, in terms of signage and just to see the student involvement in so many different ways at the high school with the city that is new, with the Youth Advisory Council and this group and others. I think we had a huge turnout for kids getting involved in those things, and I think that'll continue because students know that they have those options now, and I think that's great. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you both for the opportunity to be able to participate in the event. I walked around the cafeteria and just started chatting up kids. They were like, whoa, why is she talking to me?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you for being there.
No, again, thank you. It was a pleasure. And then I've run into probably half a dozen students in the last few months that says, you came to my school. I said, yes,
nice.
I was in the cafeteria watching you eat some of that weird food. But, there was kids that had donuts piled on their plate. It was like, okay, all right, they're sugared up now. But yeah, it was an opportunity. Adam, did you want to add anything?
Sure. Well, thank you, Anne, for the presentation, and I appreciated, I know the mayor and myself, when we went through the evaluation process, we appreciated working with you. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit, I know you talked about the enhancement grant and potentially going after that. What other sources of funding and grant opportunities are you pursuing, considering the fact that the limited funds from the opioid settlement are going to be winding down, and I do know that we are going to be having conversations about potentially changing the guidelines or the things that we would like to see apply for the enhancement grant. So what are the other sources of funding that you're looking for right now?
Well, we certainly have, we're awarded another county grant through Clackamas County for youth substance use prevention. Those are marijuana tax dollars. And we were one of 3 organizations to receive that grant, and we will be using that grant to hire and install a certified prevention specialist into the school district. And then we currently have the federal grant with SAMHSA that we are holding our breath and advocating as much as we can to continue that, because it's supposed to go through 2029. And that is currently funding our Communities That Care effort to, build coalition with Oregon City and Gladstone and do a community assessment and decide what other evidence-based programs we can implement that make sense based on the data. And then we obviously have an enhancement grant application in, and that is all we have right now.
So
All right, I appreciate that. And the reason I ask is just because I know the importance of this work and we all appreciate it. And I do hope that maybe in the future there is an opportunity to have another opioid settlement so that we can get those funds from the companies that were poisoning Americans and investing those dollars into prevention efforts. So hopefully there will be those opportunities in the future from the city as well.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you for that lead in, because I was going to ask the chief. I know that there was a recent article in the paper that talked about the fact that we got, the state of Oregon got yet another grant, or the opioid settlement money, some additional money has come in. Now, how that gets distributed down to the local level would be, my question, but I know that there was another one that just came through probably about 6 months ago.
Yeah, we get notified every so often of new settlements from different companies. And so then we would give those to finance and we track those, but they're not significant. And then we just don't know when that money's actually going to come in. So we might be awarded, say, $20,000, but we just don't know when that's going to come in.
I know it probably went through DAS, so Department of Administrative Services. So when they get around to redistributing that money, that would be, that's an opportune time for us. But yes, it's, I was really, I think you did a great job, and I think that we've got documentation of how this is relating to our Oregon City High School students, middle school students, and so you said that you had involvement. You had involvement from all three schools in Oxla, Case, and Oregon City High School?
So we had a professional that went through the blues training at Case.
Case, okay.
And then we had Oxla, we had one of their counselors go through the training, and she held a group of students
yeah.
through
That's
the
great. So
process. And then we had the Oregon City High School students that actually implemented the campaign. Yeah.
So amazing cooperation with our schools, which is
Yeah,
perfect.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. So next on our agenda, we have a city website enhancements. That would be our fearless communications manager, Mr. Jared Lehman, and you have assistants coming up to just you? Okay, well, it's the Jared show then.
I'm sorry.
We're all tuned in, and we're going to give you a good Nielsen rating.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I'm really excited to be able to have this opportunity today to share with you some enhancements that we've made to the website. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Okay. The Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't just deal with a lot of the access in the physical world. They're also responsible for online standards as well. These standards ensure that all users have access to the website, to website information, regardless of any conditions that may otherwise hinder that. I got to give a lot of credit to IT manager David Knoll. He has done a phenomenal amount of research on this, looking up vendors, doing a lot of the heavy lifting with getting things set up. And we've found a vendor that has dramatically increased the accessibility in our website for more people, to help us meet one of our goals for the commission, which is to increase engagement in the community for residents. The contract actually has a pair of tools for staff. There's some stuff on the back end that helps with things like alt tags and images and so forth, that helps people with screen readers, so the screen readers can then properly determine what that information is and read it effectively. And there's some other stuff in the background for coding and whatnot that we'll work with our website company to do. But there's the other tool, which is on the front end, that we're going to show you some of these things that are really a lot of fun. And plus, the best benefit of all, as you see, we're actually saving money on this from our prior contract. It's a net savings of $3,500. One of the key things that we were focused on was ensuring that anyone who needs to use these services will be able to easily recognize that they are available for them. You can see the arrow pointing at the icon on the website there. That icon is kind of designed by the company as a standard image for people who are used to using those types of tools. So it's easily recognizable. They know right where to go, what it is. This company is called Recite Me. And if somebody is coming to the website for the first time and that they haven't used the toolbar after clicking the icon, it comes up with this tutorial that has all the steps through all the tools. So it kind of walks them through how to use it, how to take advantage of each of the options. I want to say that our prior website did come with an accessibility tool, but it was just a screen reader. And screen readers are one of the most commonly used accessibility tools, but there are so many more options out there, and that's what this toolbar provides. You can see there's things where you can increase the font size, decrease the font size, change the font for people who might have dyslexia issues or so forth, to change the fonts that display better for people with issues like that. Focus tools for people who have issues reading things that may, it kind of blends together. So you can highlight a specific area, put a ruler and so forth to help focus the text. There's changing the line spacing, increasing, decreasing. There's a very robust language translation. There's more than 100 languages available in the toolbar. I actually started counting and got to 40, and I wasn't even halfway, so I'm like, cool, more than 100. It's incredible the amount of languages that it has to offer. Color blindness options for people so they can see everything on the website. You can increase the size of the cursor, decrease, and so forth like that as well. As I mentioned before, one of the most commonly used tools are screen readers, and the Recite Me screen reader tool is incredibly robust. It is intuitive, it's helpful. There's a lot of options, again, for people who can kind of tailor this to meet their needs. But really, for me, the biggest aspect that we're excited about is that this new screen reader function also is able to read PDFs.
What is a screen reader?
A screen reader is something that actually, the program will actually read all the content on the website to somebody who is visually impaired.
Okay.
And that's where like the alt tags come into play. So obviously it can't read an image, but if you properly have the alt tags, like just for example, the banner image up there, it would, if you have the alt tags right, it would say aerial photo of downtown Oregon City. Something like that, so people know exactly what's on there. As I mentioned before, this screen reader actually works for PDFs as well. And considering the fact that PDFs generally contain some of the most important information on the website, we're really excited about that development. There's one caveat I need to add to that. We are working with Civic Plus, the website company, on a enhancement to how this works. Because right now we're going to have to go through and kind of change the URL structure for all the PDFs. We're trying to find a way to maybe not have to do a bunch of staff time changing URL structure, but we've tested it works on things like the current budget document. We've got a 200 some odd page document, and the screen reader picks it up, works with it perfectly. So we're really excited about that enhancement there. And then if you look at the second last button on the top right, should somebody, when they're done with the website, they can hit that button. It basically resets all the options. They can close it out. So if you go to the website commonly, you can leave those settings. It'll remember you from time to time. Or if it's on a shared computer or so forth, you can reset those so another person isn't locked into your settings as well. So that was a very quick rundown on those enhancements. We just kind of wanted to take the opportunity to show those to the commission before we kind of go out and announce that and kind of show the rest of the residents some options that are there for them.
Well, I think that sounds great. I just wish we had a little demo.
I don't trust the technology for PowerPoint to work properly, so I didn't want to do that and then have it not work and then look really silly. So what I would recommend is everybody go and try the tools on your time. Plus the fact that the screen reader part starts reading, it would get very distracting for the meeting.
So you don't have to download anything or whatever?
Nope.
If I go on my personal computer, that icon's going to be there and
Correct.
To the races. That's great.
And on your phone as well. It works on the mobile side as well. So
Cool.
Most web traffic comes on cell phones nowadays, so it's really important that mobile is considered as well.
Fantastic. Questions, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So next on our agenda, we have the adoption of the agenda and review of the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item 7D.
7D, okay.
Be like dog.
Anybody else want to say anything about any of the items?
I'll move to approve the remainder of the agenda.
Second.
Consent agenda. Consent
Second.
agenda.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded?
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson. Aye. Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so where would you like that? I can put it up right at the top of the general business.
That's fine with me.
Okay, all right.
I just have a couple of questions.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. I have to make an apology, but we are going to take a 6-minute break right now. We'll be Okay, thank you so much. Commissioners, I've got a question for you. We're going to go into a public hearing on number 8, but then when we get to number 9, I want to ask if it's okay if I move a couple of the really simple, low-hanging fruit items up, because I want to leave as much time as possible for the sidewalk reimbursement assistance discussion. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to item number 8, and we are going to have a report on the micro enterprise grant program, and that is a public hearing. So who's giving Ann's giving the report. Okay, so let me go ahead and since this is not a quasi-judicial land use process, I don't have to ask for ex parte contacts or if there have been anybody that's been influenced by this particular program. But do you want me to go ahead? Do you want me to go ahead and open the public hearing first? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on the micro enterprise grant program, and I would like to call for the staff report.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Mayor. My name's Ann Griffin, and for folks who don't know me, I work in the Economic Development Department along with James Graham, and we administered the Oregon City Micro Enterprise Grant Program for the last 2 years. Wanted to give a brief report to you this evening.
Got somebody's party van going by.
The Micro Enterprise Grant Program provided direct support and technical assistance to low and moderate income micro enterprise business owners here in Oregon City. We were able to make this program possible through a grant that we received from Business Oregon. Our organization, the City of Oregon City, received $97,000 and some change in federal funds as a result of the Community Development Block Grant Program. We also partnered with a nonprofit organization called Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon, who administered some of the technical support and one-on-one training to our micro business owners. So again, the important outcomes of this program was direct financial support to 9 lower moderate income business owners. We retained jobs in our community and supported direct investment in these businesses. We also had the opportunity to meet with a number of companies throughout the city and tell them about some of the services that the city provides and the Economic Development Department provides in addition to that grant program. So 9 businesses may seem like a small amount, but I feel like our networking was another positive benefit of this program. So happy to answer any questions folks may have.
So are we bragging about the 9 businesses that we helped?
Are we bragging about them? Oh, absolutely. No, I think it was a real support.
Do we have a list of who they are? Or do you have the list of who they are?
I'm happy to share who the folks that we supported with.
That'd be awesome.
Just to read off the list real quickly, Little Learners Preschool, Stephanie Briggs, which is a chiropractic organization, In Balance Health, the Hardware Barbershop downtown, Evolution Health, Brat Dogs, which is a pet spa on Railroad Avenue, Terrifics, the Tumwater Ballroom and Aventi Catering, and also Divine Mini Donuts.
Awesome. Any questions, gentlemen, of staff? Adam, anything for you? Nope. Okay. I don't have anybody that is signed up to testify on this particular item. So I believe that our request is that we approve.
This is just for informational purposes.
Well, we were required to hold a public hearing, so.
Right.
So are we making any decision? Sorry, I'm flipping over to my staff report. Mr. Zook, will you help me out here a moment while I'm flipping? So what is we're holding the public hearing, which we're required to do. We don't have any testimony, so I will.
Correct. There's no decision that needs to be made. You could probably close the hearing now and again, just move on as a celebration of the activity that was presented.
Okay. We don't need to do anything, just acknowledge our support of the program?
Exactly.
Okay, well, actually, why don't you just make a motion that we acknowledge support of this program? Put it on the record.
I will make a motion to acknowledge the support of the Oregon City Micro Enterprise Grant Program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner
Oh,
Scott
wait,
Wilson.
wait, forgot to close the public hearing. So now the vote.
Commissioner
Go ahead.
Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, staff, for this. It's, we're all about small businesses, and this goes a long way to help people. So do we have another round that's going to be coming?
No, that's it, one time.
Was it a 2-year program?
Yeah,
That was it?
that was it.
Okay, well, we helped a lot of folks. All
Thank you
right.
for your time.
Okay, let's move on to item number 9, which is general business, and let's bring back the item D from the consent agenda, Tyler Technology Software as a service contract. Mr. Dubai, I think Mr. Mitchell has a couple of questions.
Good evening, Mayors, Commissioner, Mike Dubai, IT Director, City of Oregon City.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. It wasn't clear in the staff report, this $720,000 and change, was that in the budget? Was there more than that? Was there less than that in the budget?
Slightly less. The numbers that we got at the last minute, because of the ability to enhance our service of the residents with the new mobile app, that was kind of a last minute decision, so that added a little bit to the total.
Okay, but the bulk of it was in the budget.
Bulk of it was in the budget, yes.
Okay. And I know everything is moving to the cloud. Yeah, I get
Correct.
that. Given our ransomware incident, which you and your staff responded to wonderfully, thank you again.
Thank you.
Does moving in this direction, does that help our security? Does it make us more vulnerable? You know, when you get all that information, you know?
It helps.
Okay.
Tyler has, they're a much larger company than we are. They have the tools and resources to dramatically improve, and they have in their agreement an actual response and processes to show what they're doing to enhance their security and make sure that everything is secure, including how our data is backed up, what the privacy policies are. So we have done a lot over the last couple of years to improve our own security, but they are much more capable than we are and have the staff and the resources to do so. So it's making it better.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve this.
I'll move to approve item 7D.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Tyler Technologies SAA capital S contract.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much for that. All right, so let's, so the things I want to move around here on our agenda is I'd like to hold A and B and move to item C, adaptive reuse rehab application. That would be Mr. Graham, I believe, correct?
Is there consensus amongst the group?
Yeah, they said I could move stuff around. so
Okay.
We're good.
All right, very good.
We're just trying to take the low-hanging fruit, as they say.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager for Oregon City. And London D Aesthetics, located at 705 Main Street, is our first applicant under the Adaptive Reuse Rehabilitation Program. And I will ask them to come up to the table to give their presentation. Now, the applicant is seeking a $125,000 forgivable loan to renovate its neighboring building located at 703 Main Street. Under the program guidelines, the City Commission is expected to determine whether it is interested in seeing the project go forward. So with that said, I'm going to turn this clicker over to you, and then you can start. Well,
He needs the clicker. Oh, you got to turn the mic on and then just move it closer to you so that you can move it. It is not glued to the table.
Okay. Derek
There
Metzen,
you go.
Greenbox Architecture with Donna London, property owner. So we are excited to talk to you a little bit today about the project. To give you some context, this building is located right by the Oregon City West Lynn Bridge. Mi Familia is right there on the corner, and this building is directly adjacent to it. It's a 30-foot wide by 100 feet deep lot with its only face right there on Main Street. The building was built in 1907, and it is both well-loved and a little tired. With that, it is a historic building and qualifies to be considered under the Adaptive Reuse 2.0 program. And so we're here to talk to you
Be
a
sure
little
and
bit
tell
about that
everybody
today.
what it was back in the day.
I don't
There's a plaque on the building.
Barber shop. There we go. There's also a gigantic brick element down in the basement that makes me wonder what else it was used for. At one
That's
point,
also on the sign in the front of the building.
yeah. Well, we're not getting into everything here, but
There you go.
our vision is to create a building that will increase in square footage to make it more economically viable, to refresh that building, and to get a diversity of tenants in that building. Ms. London has been there for several years. She invested heavily when she was just a tenant before purchasing the building into revitalizing the portion that she occupies. Don Pepe has occupied a good portion of that building for a long time. And now we'd like to see the portion that they occupied be renovated for a new tenant that's public facing, and then renovate the basement as well so that the basement could be utilized for office. Since we only have that street frontage on the east side, we're very limited from practicality and a business standpoint or building code standpoint on egress and exiting from the building. So you can see on the left-hand side a rendering of what we'd like to do to the interior, bring in a retail tenant, do some nice wall finishes, replace the storefront, so it has something that is much more appealing to folks walking by. Here's a map of downtown. You can see the central location of that building. And I will note as you're coming eastward from West Lynn to Oregon City, that the back of the building is very prominent. And there are some old additions that have been placed on the back that this alteration proposes removing and restoring some of the historic nature, even on the back side of the building, because it is visible. So we've got some existing pictures here. As you can see, the front was renovated to accommodate Don Pepe's. The inside is a very long, narrow space, and then it opens up in the back. And there's a really beautiful staircase that has been covered over that goes down into the basement when that was previously occupied. Here is that basement. And I just want you to put on your imagination cap for just a little bit, because while that is very unappealing, once upon a time, the verdict looked like that too. But a couple gentlemen had some imagination on what that could be. And I think we've all enjoyed a cocktail or a meal there once, at least once. So what are we looking to do? We're looking to remove a light well that's elevated and frankly caused a lot of rot and disrepair down in the basement. It's occupiable square footage that if we take that out, we could continue and grab another 300 square feet on the ground floor, and then certainly repair the foundation damage that's been done and the framing damage and utilize that. The 70s were really bad for a lot of buildings, and this has 4 different ceilings that have come down over the years. The lowest one right now is about 9 feet. So we'd like to pull those apart and bring back some of those historic ceilings. The height is in places up to 14 feet, which would be wonderful to have. There is those offices we'd like to put in the basement. Those are executive offices, so we see a number of different small professionals being down in that basement space, but also having access to and from Main Street. So And then ADA. The building lacks ADA access, so this would give us the ability to meet that ADA access. So here's a floor plan concept that we have. Does this have a laser by chance?
I think it does.
It does, but it doesn't show on the TV very well. So if you'd like me to point at
Okay.
something, I can do it with the mouse.
Well, I'll describe it. The upper floor plan, we are essentially gutting that main level. And there are years of additions and building over what was there, so we're going to remove all that so we can see exactly what was there in the past. Some of the old crown molding is still up at the ceiling, and so we're looking forward to exposing that, some exposed structure. And then opening up that staircase that you can see in the upper right-hand corner. As you're looking at the floor plan, north is up, Main Street is to your right, okay? The shaded area in the lower right-hand side of that upper floor plan is Donna's space, and that's the space that she will continue to occupy. And then on the lower floor plan, there's a portion of the basement that has 9 to 10 foot ceilings and a portion of the basement that has 7 foot ceilings. Those 7 foot ceilings are challenging to occupy from a building code perspective, but we can see that that orange space has decent ceilings, we have access to Main Street, and given that it would be a office occupancy, we can utilize the entirety of that basement for new tenants, which would diversify the tenant mix and increasing the value of the building so that it would increase the tax base in Oregon City and do many good things for the building owner as well. So we have a construction schedule that is largely based on city participation. And Donna has already invested heavily in the building and continues to do so, but would ask that you direct James Graham to continue conversations with us as we continue moving forward with the project. Tentatively, we're looking at an August start date, but these conversations take time, and so we're on a schedule with you guys. Roughly, we see it taking about 6 months from securing funding to going through construction. Mostly, we're creating a blank slate that tenant can occupy and bringing back the historic nature of that existing building. So the work takes time, but it's not terribly in depth as far as duration and trades that need to come in, things like that. So, yeah.
Did I miss the front elevation?
We have not created a front elevation at this point in time, but happy to do so as you direct James to continue conversations. We'll put together exterior renderings, both of the front and the back, so you can see what that comes together and looks like. So the project cost is roughly $300,000. And of that, we're asking the city to match 50% of the eligible portions, which comes out to $125,000.
Mr. Graham, did you want to add anything?
Yeah.
You got to get the mic over.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity just to present this project to everyone. I'm super excited to get started regardless of what happens. I think it's a great space, and I did before I purchased the building and put a lot of my own financing into bringing my portion up to code, and it's just a beautiful space, and Derek has really given me great ideas of what we can do, and so I just really thank you for your consideration.
Hey, Mr. Graham, what are our next steps?
I'll push a button here. So the next steps, in that you've heard the presentation, to determine whether or not you'd like to give the business permission to go forward. In other words, to express your interest. And if you're interested, then they will go forward to the next stage, which is the planning and zoning and pre-application stage. So that's where we are.
So you're asking us to make a recommendation for approval of this particular project?
Well, just to express your interest, because by doing that, you're not committing anything. You're not saying that you approve the financing. You're not
Well,
approving.
you're going to do that, but. Okay.
Yeah, or you're not approving the permit process of which they have to go through. But this process is to save, if you were not interested, the deal is done.
Well, okay.
And so that's what that's about.
Do you want to say something?
I was going to make a motion.
Okay, well, hang on. So any comments? Yes, and then Adam, you're next. Thank you. Go ahead, Rocky.
So, what are the aspects that bring the historic nature back? Just the ceiling height and the reuse of the basement?
Well, the front and rear facades.
Which we have not seen.
Right. Have
So.
undergone significant alterations. And
So I guess I have a hard time to put any weight on whether or not you're bringing back any historic significance of the building or doing that, then that's the piece you're missing. So I wouldn't, I mean, in general, I'm supportive of it because I think, you know, I've been in that basement, by the way. And in that building, so it's definitely intriguing. And when you mentioned some of the other basements, I remember visiting the Hive Social when they said they were going to redo their basement, and it's unbelievable, right? So I think, I guess, to me though, you know, what the front of the building looks like is a huge piece of that, whether or not that's conducive and fits the character and a little bit more visuals, I think. But so I'm not sure I'm ready to give a huge thumbs up without knowing that, but.
Well, I think the question he said is that do we want to help, do we want to move this project forward?
Do you want to
And then
continue
they
the
will-
conversation?
Yeah,
Is
and
probably the best
then
way
we
to
would
put it.
ask to come, I would say the motion should include coming back with facade.
More
Yeah.
details.
But, yeah. So, Adam?
Yeah, first of all, I agree with what Commissioner Smith said about the importance of the historic improvements, and I think that the front facade improvements are going to be really important to me. I recognize that the back-facing improvements are important as well, but I don't care as much about what the people of Westland will be seeing so much as what the people. But I was wondering if you could talk about the reason why you chose office for the basement. And I understand it's a basement, so they're somewhat limited in what could be feasible, but we also did just talk about the Hive. We also talked about the verdict, and I know for me and for my colleagues, we've heard many people that are scared about a potential movement of the existing office leases to other locations given the change of location with the courthouse. And so I'm wondering if you see a demand for more office space, because on top of that, I personally would like to see more space that attracts visitors rather than just employees. I would like us to have employees and visitors who are coming during a time that our business owners have said is difficult for them.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if there was a speakeasy lounge that was interested, I'm sure Donna would talk to them about their interest in occupying that space. The egress is really the key issue there. To utilize that space, you've only got so many feet to exit out of the building. And from the furthest point in that basement to the top of those stairs is what we have to count. And that's 98 feet. If we go with any other occupant other than office, we lose half the basement. So it makes it largely infeasible. So that's why, as we're looking at what makes the most sense for that space, that makes the most sense. Because we've only got one exit, and that's at Main Street. Yeah, is it viable? I would say so. There is a lot of office space downtown Oregon City. It's also just as tired. And I don't I don't want to discount any building owner in downtown Oregon City. But as we were looking at different office spaces for my office, there was a lot of places that looked great on the outside. Went, I don't think this is going to be a good fit for us. So the idea here, just across the street, Bank of Commerce, I believe is across the street, they did a wonderful job improving their basement. So you walk in, you see a couple nice restaurants, you go downstairs, and then there's some uplighting, lighting on the walls, some graphics. All of a sudden you go, okay, I could be here. This has a feel to it, it has a presence. And so that's what I see us doing down there. As far as the ground floor, it's had a restaurant. STC fees are largely cost prohibitive for a lot of restaurants going into brick and mortar. So if there was a restaurant that wanted to move back in there, I'm sure that would be on the table to discuss too. But right now we're looking to get it tenant ready. And the way it has been left is definitely not tenant ready.
Thank you.
This is really a question that you probably don't have the answer to, because I don't have the answer to it, and it may not be entirely true. I do know that it was a barber shop. I can't remember what the name of the barber shop was. It was a bathhouse underneath. I think that's right.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think
Pulled
you're
that
right.
right out the hat.
The question that I have, which I've only heard by rumor, is, and looking at photographs, if you look at the photographs of the original barber shop that sat there, there's some people that say that part of that facade of Don Pepe's is actually part of that original barber shop that's just been built around. And you've talked about the amount of buildings and additions and whatever. I don't know if there is actually any truth to any of that original building encased in the mass of the rest of the building, because I've heard that rumor, and if you look at some visuals, there's some belief that that's possible. I don't know if it's true, but I'd sure like to know that, and it'd be very interesting to see if there's any aspects. I know in going to the back, when you go down the stairs, there's definitely remnants of old pieces of buildings. Whether that's part of that original building or not, I have no idea, but it'd be sure interesting to find out.
Yeah, fantastic question.
there were lots of pictures
There are portions of the facade that are hid underneath the reclaimed wood
Yeah.
that makes the Don Pepe
Yeah.
sign. Elements of that storefront may be original. We need to do some more investigation for that.
Because that's got to be late 1800s, I would think.
Well, the building was built in 1907.
Well,
so-
I know, but
Yeah.
not the barber shop.
Correct.
Barber shop predates that, so
Yeah.
that's all I'm curious about.
And the window for the front facade goes over top of where the staircase went down.
Right, yeah.
So I think it is old, but is not original.
Yeah, okay.
I think we can all agree on that.
Just a question, I'm curious. It's very fascinating. Sorry, my
That's
mic was
okay.
partly on and partly off.
Luckily, there were some nice photographs in the restaurant that showed some of the building, and who knows what else is out there, but yeah. So I guess part of this that I would be in support of moving this forward. This was exactly the similar type of project that I had envisioned when we talked about this adaptive reuse and changing some of the rehabilitation money. It always takes one person to start the ball rolling, and I think it's incumbent upon us to try to move this forward. And as I said before, we can add to the motion that we have a review of bring back what the facade is going to look like, particularly again, we want to enhance the historic nature of our downtown, and this is one of our old buildings. And I also commend you for looking at the back. Now, I know that Mr. Morrow said he didn't care what people, I probably drive that 4 or 5 times in a week, and maybe even more. And I've always looked at the back of those and saying, yeah, that tarp that's back there, well, that needs to go, or this, And same thing that Mr. Graham had talked to us about before, when you're at the elevator and you're looking down on some of those buildings that you were looking at their roofs. Okay, so they're a roof, but the roof doesn't have to look like it's, they had a rave on it and left all the mess. So I think that anything you can do to improve the rear, and maybe that will encourage a couple of those other owners right there together right near you to do something about the back as well. So, Mike, do you have a motion? Or Scott, did you have the motion?
Well, I think and Mr. Graham can probably answer this.
And if you look at the
question about what the facade would look like when the development agreement will come back to us for
yes.
approval, and will that include those kind of drawings that would have that facade?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, so we're covered on that.
Yeah,
So
we're
then
covered.
I'm going to make a motion to identify this project as a project of interest from the City Commission.
Second.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we're moving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One question. So the expectation is for them to come back to show you the facade,
Yes,
I mean, the front.
yeah, and probably the back too, so. The
Okay.
facades, we're
All right.
using plural.
All right.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it, and
Question?
go ahead.
Is that prior to moving forward with the rest of the 2.0 process or in concurrence with the
In-
rest
I
of
would
the
say
2.0
it's in
process?
concurrence.
Okay, that's what, they have to make that decision. So it's in concurrence.
Thank you.
All right, so we have done number C. Let's take D, Resolution 2519, modifying system development charges for park and recreation facilities. We've kind of been over this. Mr. Archer's here. It's just making our final decision. And then after that, we're going to do E, which is the ordinance 25-1011.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Scott Archer, Parks and Recreation Director, and thanks for teeing that up, Mayor. Yes, I can be very brief in my overview because you've heard this at a few recent meetings. We have been working on updating our park system development charges, our SDCs, since 2023. After a lengthy process, we brought that to you for consideration. We brought a draft methodology updating the parks SDCs to you on June 18th. We held a public hearing, but at that particular meeting, you requested the staff bring back some additional information for you to consider. You continued that to July 16. And those items that you asked us to bring back were two things. One was to consider a tiered approach for multi-family housing options by either bedroom or square footage, and also potentially exploring the impact of the cost in the SCC methodology for the Recreation and Aquatic Center. And so on July 16, we held a work session with you prior to the regular meeting. You discussed those items, and then during the regular commission meeting, you made a motion to continue that item to consider the consideration of adoption to tonight's meeting. And you also, at that meeting, you directed staff to revise the methodology to include the tiered approach on the multifamily housing, and that's based on number of bedrooms per unit. And that was as presented on that work session on July 16. And then to essentially leave unchanged the original amount that was in the SDC methodology calculation for the Recreation and Aquatic Center. That was $9.1 million. So we didn't change that one. So the only change to the prior draft methodology that has been made, and that's reflected in the draft methodology that we're asking you to consider adopting tonight, is that multifamily tiered housing, and that's also in your staff report. I put a simplified table in there. I pulled that out of the methodology to make it a little bit more simple to look at that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any further questions you have. But basically, we brought back pretty much precisely what you asked us to bring back by a motion on July 16.
So gentlemen, did everything that was submitted in the report meet the specifications of the requests that we made? Yep.
I think so.
Hand up.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, Adam.
Adam, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a few comments. What was that?
I said thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Just a few comments. So I am going to be a no on this tonight, like I was the last time, not because I don't support the multifamily tiered approach, but because I still am uncomfortable with the full 9 million, or I guess not full, but the 9 million assumed SDC methodology. A few things that we talked about was, oh, well, it didn't seem like that the change in the methodology to something like 5 million would make that much of a difference on the SDCs, but I would remind us all that when you multiply by the amount of multifamily units, that is where it is going to make a difference. I know that there were conversations about how the SDC methodology would affect a total bond ask, but and after having talked to multiple people about this, if we're being honest with ourselves, we're probably going to go out with a similar ask regardless of how much we include in the methodology because of how uncertain the revenue source of relying on future SDCs is going to be. So that's really not going to have much of an impact on how much we ask of the voters. And even if it were, I am just not convinced with my experience that little of a difference is going to really make a difference between yes or no. I do also want to re-up the conversation that we had last time about how long it will take to accrue the necessary SDCs. We talked about how long it's taken us to accrue the amount of SDCs we currently have in the bank right now, and how difficult it will be to get that once more. And we also have to remember that there's an inverse relationship between SDCs and development. The more that you increase SDCs, just like in any marketplace, the more that you increase something, the less it tends to happen. And so I also worry that by increasing these SDCs with the assumption that we're going to get more dollars, that we may actually end up in a situation where there is less development and less SDCs coming in. So, and then the last thing is that I worry about relying so heavily upon SDCs for the aquatic and recreation center, how that impacts our ability to do other smaller SDC eligible projects that we can get done in a timely fashion to show to our community that we're taking seriously the need for development to help pay for the amenities in our city. So. I'm still supportive of the multifamily tiered approach, but I wish that we would take down the SDC methodology to 5 million, so that's why I'm going to be a no again.
Let me ask Mr. Archer a question. So that was a concern that was brought up last time about whether or not we would have to set aside or build up that reserve for that amount of money when we might have other projects that we'd want to do with the SDCs. So are we locking ourselves into something? I mean, that's what I'm understanding what Commissioner Morrow is concerned about. Or can we just say that some of that is going to be reserved for the aquatic center, but not all of it?
Some of you're talking about the $9.1 million
Yes.
And whether, if there was a portion of it that we didn't utilize, could we use that somewhere else? Is that what you're asking, Mayor? Or
sort of.
I do recall that question coming up at that discussion on July 16. I believe the city attorney, Ms. Richter, addressed that from a legal perspective, in that the answer was essentially that we would have to revise, I think we would have to revise, kind of do a revision of the methodology to be able to apply that to something else. So the commission could take action to utilize that differently, if that addresses your question.
Yeah, so basically what I'm understanding is that we are going to be locked into that then.
It would be,
so to speak,
for now, and unless the commission took, a future commission took an action to essentially redirect that fund through the methodology.
Other questions or concerns? I mean, I support what we're proposing, but I have a little bit of anxiety about the 9 million number, that if it was, because I think it's going to take us, I'm going to be long gone before we get that amount of money. Not that I'm going anywhere, but I'm just concerned that we may lock ourselves into something. I mean, we may have an opportunity come up and that we want to take advantage of, and we might not be able to do it because we've locked in all of that going to the pool. I mean, it's not that the pool and the recreation, excuse me, the recreation center, I want to say, it's not going to be just a pool, so it's recreation center. So I don't,
Mayor?
But if,
sure.
Oh.
Go ahead, Scott.
sorry, but if that opportunity were to arise, my understanding, Mr. Archer, is that the commission could sit down, revise the methodology and say, we actually don't want to dedicate all of that 9.1 to the aquatic and recreation center. We could use some of it for XYZ for other purposes. Is that correct?
So,
Yeah.
The follow-up conversation is helping me add a little clarity to your first question, Mayor, which is, so an important component here is, the question that I was addressing is, if we collected some or much of that 9.1, and we decided, the commission through some direction said we want to use that differently, then that's when the commission would need to take that follow-up action to redirect it. However, the money, that $9.1 million is in the methodology specifically for that item, which, in other words, if you said we don't want to collect for that at all, that changes the whole formula of the methodology. So you'd be withdrawing a component of, there's about 51.5 million in anticipated collection over whatever number of years this would take. That's what the methodology is based on. So the 9.1 million for the aquatic center is in the current methodology. If you're, so I think what I might be understanding, and I'm trying to add a little more clarity, is if you're saying we're kind of moving along and we want to use that $9.1 million for something else, if it hasn't been collected yet, that can't be utilized that way. And also you would have to, in other words, essentially you'd have to kind of say, we don't want that in there to start with, because we're going to collect it, and
I don't think
it's a little convoluted. I
don't
apologize.
think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think we're saying we don't want to collect it. I hear, and correct me, Adam, I hear that we're saying that we want to collect it, but we also want to be able to, we want it all, I guess is what I'm saying. We want to be able to collect some of it for that and the other things that might come up.
Right. And in that case, then that goes back to the first question. So
Right.
you could redirect that if it's collected at some point. You said we want to do something different, or
Adam?
you didn't. Yeah,
Adam?
Yeah, and that's why I would prefer to just have that flexibility now by going along with the 5 million assumption in the SDC methodology rather than the 9. My biggest concern about this is going out to the voters and promising them something if they were to vote yes on a tax increase to get a beautiful new aquatic and recreation center, and only to have that project be delayed because a significant portion of the funding that we assumed may not be there, because we have no idea when it will be there. And I know that Mr. Archer said last time that there are financing tools and other ways to account for that. But if there's a way for us, like reducing the SDC methodology assumptions that will make it less likely for us to have to do that, then I would prefer to go that way.
Any other thoughts, gentlemen? I know we had a 4-1 last time, so we can make a motion to, I see we're not going to do number 3, which is deny it, but we've got 2 options: approve it as is, or approve the resolution with an amendment.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around a mid-course correction one way or the other. If we've been collecting, if our methodology has included that 9 million and we've been collecting against that, would we be able to use the money that we've already collected? I understand we'd have to change the methodology if we all of a sudden eliminated a $9 million item or reduced it to 5 million, down the road. We'd have to revise the methodology for future collections, but would we be free to spend that money that we were going to spend on other projects on our capital improvement plan?
I'm going to
How do we segregate the money? I mean, do we
Assistant
put
City Attorney
a
is-
dollar over here for other things and
That's kind of my question.
and a dollar over here for the park, for the future aquatic center? I mean,
Or
if
is
we
this a
collect,
pile of money that we prioritize spending on later?
I mean, if we collect, let's say we collect $5, can we take $250 and put it into the regular SDC fund for other things and $250 into the aquatic center pot, or does it all have to go?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to stick with what Carrie advised last time, which is that because of the particular way that the methodology is set up here, it would require another action by the current city commission. And in addition, I think you know this, but let's just say it. If you're talking about a new project that's not included on the project list because no one has envisioned it yet, that obviously also would require revisiting.
Right, we'd have to amend the plan.
The plan.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion of some sort?
Well, yeah. As I look at, look at $51 million total, and 9 million is nearly 20% of that, and that seems like an awfully high number. So I'm going to support what Commissioner Morrow suggested and make that amount 5 million.
So you want to do the amendment, the second one, which is approve it, but amend with an amendment?
Yes.
Thoughts, gentlemen? Looking to my right.
I think I would support that.
Yeah, we went the other way last time.
I know.
Okay, Scott, thoughts?
I shared last time, I do think that, it is incumbent on us to go to the voters with as little of an ask as we can. That's why I was supporting the 9.1.
I agree.
However, if, the will of the commission really is to look at 5 versus 9, I would be in support of that.
All right, well then let's have a motion.
I'll move to approve resolution number 25-19, modifying system development charges for parks and recreation facilities, amending the amount for the aquatic center from 9.1 million to 5 million.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
I'm going to vote aye, just so we can keep this moving. I agree with your original premise, which was try to ask for as little as possible. But I know that our community is going to want something really amazing and fabulous, and that's going to cost money. So motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's quickly move to ordinance number 25-1011. And, oh, thank you, you're coming up. Yes, this is pretty basic, and I can speak to it as well.
Thank you again, Mayor and Commissioners. Jared Lyman, Communications Manager for the City of Oregon City. This ordinance change is a very simple adjustment to the ordinance for the Youth Advisory Commission. The reason this is coming before you is currently, like many other boards and commissions, the Youth Advisory Commission has a limit of 2 members that reside outside of Oregon City limits. Due to a large number of applicants who were very qualified, the interviewers were very interested in these applicants being from outside of the city limits, it was requested that a change be made allowing for more members that go to school within the Oregon City School District, within Oregon City, but reside outside of city limits. So this ordinance would take the current maximum right now is 2 and make it no more than half of the commission, which is 6. And if I recall correctly, the current slate that will be before you for approval next commission meeting, I believe has 3 that are from outside of city limits.
Yeah, so I want to add to your comments. I would not be recommending this for other boards and commissions that we have. This is really an outlier in terms of an exception. We are looking for students who go to schools within the Oregon City School District, and that does not mean that they all live in the city limits. other commissions and boards that we have. They are making decisions. They are quasi-judicial or make a recommendation to us, and I think it's very important that we keep the limit of no more than 2 members on those boards. This is really a way for more students to participate. We had a record number of 16 applicants for basically 6 slots. And it was not an easy decision, and I would thank Commissioner Morrow for working with me on this particular item. We wanted to make sure we had, they were all great. And so, how do you narrow that down?
I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision.
Yes, I'm glad you didn't either.
It would have been tough.
It was very tough, but I think we have a good group of people, and so that's why we're bringing this forward. This is really to promote more participation by our students, and next year, by golly, I'm going to get some students from Oxla. So we have North Clackamas Christian, Oregon City High School, and Case, which is fantastic. Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify that it isn't allowing more students who live outside of the city limits but attend a school in the school district. It's students who live outside of city limits and attend a school within city limits.
Right.
Because the district and the city limits are
not the same, yeah. So would you like to make a motion?
Can I ask a question
Sure.
first? It says it consists of at least 9 youth members. Does it say in here anywhere what our standard number is, what our goal is?
The Youth Advisory Commission changed, so we have a maximum of, it's 13, correct?
15, I believe.
15, yes, 15 members. So that means that no more than half could be.
Is that in this ordinance somewhere?
Well, we changed that the last time we did this.
It's in their bylaws.
Yeah, it's in the bylaws.
Oh, okay. All right, that's covered somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
They made that themselves. I wanted to not constrain it that much, but they said, nope, we want this number. That's what we want to do. Motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 25-1011, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City expanding the eligibility of youth advisory commissioners.
Second. We have to read this 2 times.
This is the first reading?
First
so
reading.
We don't need to, but we do need to read the title.
Right. So, go ahead.
Sorry. I was stuck on that SDC question.
I know.
have to confess. (25-1011).
Yes.
An ordinance of the city of, ordinance number 25-1011, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City expanding eligibility for youth advisory commissioners to include more members who do not reside within city limits, but attend a high school within city limits.
Roll call.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl?
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll bring the second reading back at our next meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Last but not least, before we get to A and B, we have item F, which is State of Oregon Lottery Revenue Bond Grant Agreement. And I can't tell you how excited I am that this is happening. Are you taking this one, Mr. Zook?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, you have an opportunity to approve a grant agreement between the State of Oregon and the city for $12.5 million, financing the project referred to as Willamette Falls Improvements. There's a description in the staff report as to what those funds can be used for: land acquisition, improvements, design and engineering, rehab and enhancement of the area in Clackamas County in or around the area, including Willamette Falls. You will note that this is an area that is, in which the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde has a strong interest and owns. And so there's negotiations between the Grand Ronde to determine a defined project scope and access agreements for a construction project. And as you historians in the room will remember that many years ago, the City of Metro, through the Willamette Falls Legacy Project Partnership, was able to secure 2 direct funding allocations from the state legislature for design and construction of access along the Willamette River. Those allocations went to Metro and have been held by Metro until such time as now that money has been returned, unspent and returned to the state. And now the state desires to direct that money to the City of Oregon City to complete a project consistent with the use of the agreement. And the agreement is in the packet before you. This evening, the recommendation is to approve this agreement.
Well, I'd like to add to this. So those of us with a little bit of history knew that Metro had been holding this money, and we had fully intended to break ground on the Riverwalk project, and we have been working behind the scenes to secure that funding since Metro no longer is interested in that. The Grand Run, unfortunately, are no longer interested in working with Metro, but they are very interested in working with us on this project, and I really feel very strongly that we can create a partnership to get at least some part of it completed as per the requirement. And we have a really huge opportunity here to finally get this up and running with all the, in the past, we had all the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I really strongly recommend that we approve this. This is a good deal for us. Puts us in the driver's seat, which is where we wanted to be from day one. Any questions? Let's have a motion. Don't all speak up at once. I can't make the motion.
I'll move to approve State of Oregon Lottery Revenue Bonds Grant Agreement for Willamette Falls improvements.
Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Let the record show it was unanimous. All right. We have gotten done with the low-hanging fruit. Let's move on to items 9, what was old 9A and 9B. They kind of go together. And here comes staff. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Have a good evening.
I get the other
So
stuff.
do we want to do the chicken and the egg? Which one should come first? So we're talking about sidewalk reimbursement assistant program discussion. Is this the chicken and the egg? Do we need to talk about the first one, the B first, or we need to talk about A first so that if we make any changes, we can have that happen?
They are two separate items, so the code amendments is in item 9B, and I don't have discussion topics for that in item 9A.
Okay, well, let's take 9A first.
Okay, so the reimbursement
Yes.
staff report, or PowerPoint, Josh would have sent that to you, I think, Tuesday.
Sorry, let me find that in just a second.
It's okay, we can get there.
I'll go ahead and get started. So good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Dana Webb, Public Works Director. We've previously had discussions around this topic. I believe my notes show June 4th, we heard public testimony. Staff came back at both the June 10th and July 8th work sessions, collecting feedback. And at the July 8th work session, direction from Commission was that code amendment, which is your item 9B. Again, on August 6th, you heard public testimony. And so tonight, for this item, what I've done is taken that list of items that we heard about, and I've tried to provide some background on those topics, and then also I'm looking for feedback on some of the items tonight. All right,
So really they are commingled in my opinion.
So the first topic is the group permits. And I wanted to share the group permits were added back in 2022 as part of the Sidewalk Reimbursement Assistance Program. So that initial discussion, I believe, started with the Trailview subdivision. So we added that in 2002. Group permits are used for 3 or more properties. And then the applicant for a group permit can be the contractor or one of the property owners. And in the event it's the contractor, it has to be the same contractor for all of those property owners. And then in the event that they use a group permit, the reimbursements remain an individual transaction with the city. So each property owner would submit, their share of those group costs that the contractor puts together. So I think what I'd like to do is if there's questions about each of these, maybe we have that discussion. We can always come back as well if there's questions.
Perfect.
So are there questions about group permits or how we manage those?
Gentlemen? Nope, okay, we can move on.
I'd like to share our permit costs for sidewalks. These costs are the same for a grinding permit or a replacement permit. If a single property owner comes in, that permit fee is $207. If they come in under the reimbursement program, we offer, at the time it was 50%, but as we apply the inflation factor and the numbers go through the annual increase, sometimes that number adjusts. So that single permit in the reimbursement program is $103. So essentially a 50% discount. A group permit, so again, those 3 or more properties that come together have one permit fee of $413. And if any one of the property owners within that group permit is part of the sidewalk reimbursement program, they get that discount and are dropped to the $206 for their permit fee. And a group permit could have 20 properties in it. If 20 property owners can work with one contractor, they can come in under one permit. All right, I'll go on to the next one. Okay. Waiver of permit fees. There was questions about waiving or providing a moratorium on permit fees. We currently have approximately 89 properties in code enforcement through the city, and that's in the entire city. Our permits fees are adopted by resolution, so if the feedback is that we want to waive those, we would need to bring back a resolution identifying the timeline for that fee waiver. So the question around loss of revenue from waiving permit fees. In this scenario, those 89 properties all come in under single permits with no sidewalk reimbursement program, which is essentially the most revenue we could lose. That would be approximately $18,000 in lost revenue. If all of the properties came in under single permit and approximately 50% qualified for the reimbursement program, we would lose about $14,000 in revenue. And then one other scenario we provided is that if 50% of those 89 properties came in under one group permit, and the remaining 50% were a single permit, we would lose about $10,000. So currently, starting July 1 of this new fiscal year, we've had 6 reimbursements through the sidewalk replacement program that have included anywhere from 1 to 6 sites. And again, a site in that reimbursement program is anywhere where a tree impacts a panel. 3 of those reimbursements have been within the McLaughlin neighborhood, and those were for a 1 panel, a 3 panel, and a 6 panel. And the apologies, it was for a 1 site, a 3 site, and a 6 site. So 1, 3, and 6 trees. The 6 site property had 20 panels they replaced as part of the permit. Of the 89 properties currently in code enforcement, 27 have obtained a permit already. And they will be starting work or are already in their construction window. 5 of those properties have received their second notice, and the remainder of the properties are at the first notice period. So a majority of them are still in that first notice, but about a third of them have applied for and received a permit.
So you talked about this particular thing. One of the things that I had asked about was whether or not we could extend the time. so that we have a specific, so we have, right now, it's like, you get this much time, and then you can get a second notice, and is there a way for us to extend that out so that people have a longer period of time to get additional funds or whatever they need? I mean, we're going into, I mean, we could have a completely light winter this year. We could also have the winter from hell. So there's going to be a limited amount of time for people to get work done and get stuff scheduled, because I know contractors are, they don't always call you back, unfortunately.
Yes, so the time allocated is part of that code amendment in item 9B. And at this point tonight, what we've brought back is what was
Just didn't get there yet.
suggested at the last meeting, but those times could be extended.
Okay.
All right, there was questions about an option to pay the city to replace the panels as part of a larger project. Anytime the city spends over $50,000, our project becomes subject to the Bureau of Labor and Industry's prevailing wages. And so that typically increases the cost of a project. So that is something we would need to think about if we were collecting the money to make a larger project and administer that. It would cost more than if the homeowners or the property owners kind of came together and managed that project themselves. All right, another question asked was to incrementally assist with multiple panels. So an example of that could be if a homeowner has a certain number of panels to replace, such as 6, only a certain number would need to be replaced each year. So I'm looking for more feedback on what that type of a program would look like. I know staff that administer the program have had conversations with property owners about this type of a program. Most of them appreciate it, but at this point, no one's asked to kind of separate their code enforcement case into kind of 2 halves or do a portion now and a portion later. I think one of the questions that comes up in that case is who takes the legal responsibility if the tripping hazard's been noted, if the city is allowing a deferment.
Recreational immunity. Could we put that under recreational immunity?
The city.
The only concern I have with that, doing it incrementally, I mean, I know that it might seem to be more cost effective, but every time a contractor has to come in and set up and take down, and they charge you for that. And, but if it's not affordable, I guess a person would have to look at it from the standpoint of over time, would that be more cost effective? So that would be that's my comment about that particular one, and that's not my decision to make, so.
So I think if this is a program that you're looking for more information on, I think we need a little bit of feedback on what that looks like, and what would that minimum number of panels to kind of break it into a partial project.
Didn't we have one property that had 19 panels, as I recall? It was 19 to 20 panels. That's a lot. I don't even know if breaking it into 10 and 10 would even be financially feasible. How would we go about? I think that's the one that has the most, as I recall.
One of the properties that has the higher number of panels, I believe, is in the permitting phase already. So they're moving forward with the permit.
Any thoughts?
Staff is gonna love me saying this, but I wouldn't be moving forward with anything until we have a discussion about what the hell we're doing. I mean, until we make a decision, I wouldn't be doing anything with my sidewalks. But I want to go back to a couple of questions. I'm pretty sure in the reimbursement program, the original reimbursement program, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I voted no, not because I didn't think that it needed to happen. And for sure in that situation, I felt that the city was responsible for a lot of the trees being planted and therefore had some reasonable expectation to help people with their sidewalks. But I think one of the reasons I was concerned about it at that time was where we're at right now, right? Because every time another neighborhood has a sidewalk problem, we're trying to fix it. But in fixing it, we have to also then go back and make sure it's consistent and fair with everything else we've done, which is so hard to do. So in this last meeting we had, I talked about some of these issues as a possible, we talked about the fee waiver, which I'm still interested in talking about, but then, if we waive the fees to this group, then how does, we have to be consistent with everyone else. So if people paid, fees in the past, why didn't they get their fees waived? I think, we should have had those conversations when we did the first reimbursement program, and to that point, this doesn't surprise me that we have people having issues with sidewalks. For some of us, I guess that's a shock. We should have had that conversation about all the variables when we did the reimbursement project and tried to figure out a way to deal with it, because
We're past that.
oh, we're way far past that,
Yeah.
no doubt. So now we have to try to fix it, and it's so complicated to fix it because most people sitting in the audience that are frustrated, which I would be too, want a quick fix, but the quick fix is then having to count for that accessible to every single person in the city to make that fair. And that's impossible to do. So it's very complicated to try to fix. I still want to have one of the comments about, the city taking on the project is, and this answer reminds me of, I think, the same answer we got last time is with Boley and all of that. If the projects were looked at smaller than the $50,000 cap, and that the city, rather than doing one giant project with everyone under the same umbrella, that the city, and this was also talked about way back, take on the individual groups, and that the groups are under that cap. Is that doable? The assisting with multiple panels, I think, one way to do that is to say, well, which ones are the most, which panels to focus on first, and then, bumping the time frame out. But part of me wants to say, well, regarding of the circumstances, if anyone in this city has 10 panels or 20 panels, I mean, that's a huge amount of panels to take on without some city assistance. But if we do that, then we have to, do that to everybody. And it does behoove the city, to maybe want to see that happen because the city wants to see the sidewalks fixed. But it's a huge task. So I'm curious to see how we discuss each of those things, but I think I'm still okay talking about the fees. I just think we have to then figure out how that affects the fees in the future to anyone else, or fees that we've already accepted for people even under the reimbursement process or not. And then curious if we can do smaller groups that don't meet the cap of BOLI. And then the other thing that came up last time, people were yelling at us for saying we didn't do anything. We've done some things, right? We've had a lot of conversation. We did do the grinding, which we weren't allowing at first. That helps a little bit. Someone brought up the point of the foam, which now that I'm thinking about, foam would rise. Most of these sidewalks are going up and aren't going to, be lower because they're being caused by roots. But in the situation that some of the sidewalks are caving, the city was not willing to let homeowners go the route of foam because it's a new thing. Maybe that's something we look into, seeing if there's any options there for homeowners that have that issue where their sidewalks are sinking and not necessarily being pushed up. Is there any other fixes that might be helpful? I guess I'll stop at that for now, but we still need to talk through a lot of this.
Okay, well,
I think we need to talk about all of them. There's one more still on the list.
yes, there's one more still on the list, but again, our goal tonight is to try to come up with a solution because we don't have all night.
Okay, I understand. but
And you and
we need to
I
hear
are
what
both
they have
in
to
the.
say- hear what they have to say
Well,
about-
If we don't get it done tonight,
If he and I
do it.
don't die on the vine here, but anyway, so go ahead, Dana, go with the last
And
one.
I've got one more I want to suggest, and then I think we should loop back and talk about all of them.
Okay, I've got two more slides.
Sure.
So this one is the concept of a short-term, no-interest loan from the city. This requires a lien on the property to ensure that repayment of the loan. That does become an administrative component, and we would need to administer that and also maintain those records. If this is something you're interested in, we would need feedback on term of the loan, minimum and maximum loan amounts. Is it full or partial cost of the work? Replacement panels only, not for grinding? Do we include the cost of the lien in the loan, or is the city covering that cost? And then identification of the funds to be used for the loan program. So this does become a complicated item. We'd need to identify funding. Would it come from delaying a transportation capital project? Kind of the similar question we had earlier. Would we be using the sidewalk reimbursement monies for this loan program? And so I think one alternative is essentially that concept that was brought up earlier, which is expanding the time to complete the work. That's a small code amendment and easy to manage. I would be looking to the finance department to support us on possibly managing 60 loans. There are 60 current code enforcements that have not pulled a permit. So if all 60 came in for a loan, that's a lot of management of.
Yeah, I don't support a loan primarily because we are not a bank. I'm not sure how that would work. It would take a substantial amount of time to set something up like that. I know that we have in the past because of, we've identified a code enforcement issue that was really severe, like a squatting house or whatever, and then we've cleaned it up and then we've liened the property when it was sold. And that, I have an idea of what goes into doing all of that. It's quite substantial. So I don't think people are interested in having a loan. I go back to the item that you and I talked about earlier, Mr. Wilson, and the fact that we felt that we should add the sidewalks to this program for this particular circumstance. And I know you talk about equity and fairness. I don't think we can waive fees because again, I don't think that's equitable. But I think we could add, this is, again, as I stated, this is a very unusual circumstance. I don't think we would have ever anticipated something like this happening when we talked about this, when former Director Lewis brought this to us, and we did talk about unintended possible consequences, but this was not one of them. I don't think in our wildest imagination we would have thought that something like that would have happened. And I know, I'm fairly risk averse, but I can tell you, I didn't think about that either. Should you go on with the next one?
All right, so this is an update on the condition of city-owned sidewalks. This is just a review of Public Works-owned facilities. And so what I've done here is shown within Public Works, we have 4 utility funds, and then we have some of our properties identified as general, meaning they're owned jointly by multiple funds. And so what this matrix shows is the number of sites that each of those funds owns. And again, apologies, my total under total sites inspected has a math error. That should say 135, not 191. So Public Works owns 135 pieces of property. Of those, 88 of them have tripping hazards. So we did a self-evaluation. We did this, we started it back in November of 2024 and completed it in February of 2025. And so we've identified, 88 with no tripping hazards, 47 with tripping hazards. Since February, we've completed repairs on 27 of those and have 20 tripping hazard remains. These are not within code enforcement, and so they are not currently within that tracking. This was a self-assessment we did to understand the condition of our properties.
Mike, do you want to go ahead and talk about the one you'd like to have for consideration to add?
Yeah, it's sort of a variation on
So you're saying
number 4.
Hybrid?
As panels as part of a larger project, but the suggestion would be not that the city coordinates the payment, but that the city coordinates getting the work done all in one. Because as you said, the savings comes from doing as many as you can at one time. And the fact that the city's handling the money isn't going to save anybody any money. But so city coordinating mass repair.
So do you mind just for a moment that we just take a little bit of a pause? We have three people that want to talk about two of these items, and I'd like to go ahead and have them come up. As we know, we've received some correspondence, and again, if you're watching at home, thank you very much for submitting your information. I know that I'm really interested in hearing if we have anything new that we didn't know about from before. I think we've kind of talked about all the concerns that folks have had over the time period, and the recent letters have reiterated the fact, please help us with something. I'm not going to get specific, but just sum that up. So, Jim, you had a question about or concern about the ordinance or the revisions, so come on up. And then after him would be Tyson and Michael. And Mr. Wiley will start the timer when you're up there.
Thank you, James Nasita, Oregon City. First of all, big respect for having to address such a knotty and challenging issue as this. I have taken a look at the ordinance, and I wanted to flag some things for staff and the commission as you move forward on this. And I'm going to read something since Commissioner Marl is not here and can't see my handout. I'm going to read and point out to him or to everybody what essentially I'm pointing out in what I've given you. So OICMC 12.04030 maintenance repair. The owner of land abutting the street where a sidewalk has been constructed shall be responsible for maintaining said sidewalk and abutting curb. I didn't know about that, if any, in good repair. Now, Director Webb's staff memo clarifies something further. In the first paragraph after the word background, it said, maintenance is required whenever the sidewalk is not in good repair. The term good repair is defined as a tripping hazard. A tripping hazard is defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act as a change in vertical elevation of 1/4 inch or greater. So just to demonstrate the outer limits of how challenging this is, if you read this literally, that means that anybody that is abutting a street with a curb higher than 1/4 inch is out of compliance. So what does that mean? You have to grind the curb down to 1/4 inch? As a practical matter, though, I think where this really becomes a problem is at the corners with ramps for wheelchairs, et cetera. In my reading, I think that this unequivocally makes people who live in houses on corners liable for those curbs that aren't ramps, because they're higher than a quarter high. And that in turn creates, as Commissioner Smith raised earlier, an equity problem, because people who aren't on corners don't have that same liability financial for those, non-ramp curbs that people who are on corners. And then there's another problem where, equity problem where the city, when it reconstructs a street, will do the ramps. So some people are liable for corners and many people aren't liable for corners, and that seems kind of inequitable.
Run out of time.
So I would really recommend removing liability for those curbs from the code. I think that can be done with clear, specific language, and that only the city should be liable for solving the problem with curbs that are higher than a quarter inch on street corners and have to have the wheelchair ramps. That would be fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guys? Commissioner Morrow, I just sent you the information that was handed out. Go ahead.
Right. Thank you for having us. I'm Michael Sugar. This is Tyson Brown. We both live in McLaughlin. Just hearing what's been said tonight, I want to respond to that. The question is essentially what is new and what is fair? And when it comes to fairness, I think both of these questions kind of answer themselves. Sometimes when circumstances change significantly, it can justify a change in policy that may seem unfair to people in the past, but is appropriate to the circumstances that we are now facing. We are facing unprecedented inflation and cost of living, and I think that justifies action on the part of the city in a variety of ways, but in particular on this issue. In particular, one of my concerns is affordability for families within Oregon City. We have enrollment issues here and statewide, and that affects school funding pretty significantly. We want Oregon City to be a place that families feel secure coming to, secure buying homes in, and raising their families in without substantial, unplanned, unexpected expenses coming along. Grants, in the case of trees, help with that. Expanding that in light of the unusual circumstance of our cost of living issues would be appropriate. Furthermore, considering ways, as Commissioner Mitchell was saying, for the city to coordinate a response. Right now, for example, if I wanted to know who are the people who have been cited under this ordinance, I would have to do a FOIA, I think. That is cumbersome. The city could allow us, for example, if I were cited, for me to opt in to have my information shared with other people on a Google Doc who have been affected. Otherwise, right now, what we've had to do is walk the sidewalks, look for the paint, compare it to a map of little dots, and hope that we can get them to answer the door. That's not particularly effective, and the city can improve on that. Last, when it comes to grants versus loans, the loans are not really helpful because they just add to an already egregious cost of living situation. The grants, expanding those even modestly, would be extremely helpful. And I would like to add that when it comes to protecting livability for families and likewise dealing with the sidewalk issue, I personally have sidewalks that are in great condition, and I personally do not have kids. But as a voter, homeowner, and taxpayer here, I believe it is good policy to revise this ordinance so that it maintains its status in the public good, as opposed to being something that is essentially a liability and is driving people out. Is there anything I've forgotten that I should add?
Michael, I don't believe so, but I just want to acknowledge that we do have residents here today. I'm sorry. Yep. I just want to acknowledge that we do have residents here today who've been here for hours looking for support, and I admire them for being here. And yeah, I agree with everything that Michael just said.
And don't forget, because you didn't say your name.
Oh, yeah, Tyson Brown, Oregon City.
You still have 3 minutes if you want
No, everything I would just, nothing much I would add, besides the idea that when it comes to a grant program, expanding that reimbursement program, again, as we walk the sidewalks, we see 2-inch sidewalks that, just like with street trees, the residents can't control that their sidewalks were put in with 2 inches. A lot of these sidewalks, the wear and tear is just natural wear and tear. But then you get corner lots that have sidewalks that are cracking, and they have a lot of financial responsibility. So the residents I've talked to, they just need some type of support when it comes to, especially with expanding the reimbursement program, which was discussed months ago, about $400 per panel. Those panels add up quickly. Again, every panel is basically almost $800. Again, beyond that, it starts becoming quite the financial burden. So anyways, I just want to reiterate the idea that the residents I've talked to are really hoping for an expansion of that reimbursement program. And then also with the permit fees, as I've mentioned before, also thinking about this idea of trying to get 3 residents is very hard to get, because every contractor has different rates. So even if 3 residents want to come together, they can't all afford the same contractor. Contractors have different rates. So I would hope that something could be done when it comes to just 2 people with the same contractor. Again, me and my neighbor had the same contractor and got the work done on the same day, and we got no type of support with the permit fees, and we were less than 500 feet away from each other, same contractor, same day. So anyways, I always hope that also be kept in mind when it comes to potentially changing permit fees or forgiving permit fees or modifying them, that even trying to get 3 property owners together can be quite a burden for property owners. Yeah.
Not even with the availability of who's on first.
What was that?
So if we were able to get a list together of who's doing what, or who's available, having a list is not going to be helpful to
it would be helpful. It would be helpful for coordination, but again, even when it comes to even just like trying to coordinate with single contract can be, so that would be this idea of a way to get some type of relief on permits that is not only dependent that I have to get a bunch of neighbors together, because that can also be an issue in some circumstances, because not all contractors are equal when it comes to their pricing. But then also when I called in about the permits had to be pulled at the exact same time. So again, there is a lot of coordination of timeline to get that to even qualify. So you would have to get your 3 residents to pull the permits at the exact same time. So then you would have to get everyone on the exact same timeline. Anyways, I'm just saying it's a complicated
permits for everybody.
Yeah.
So this has been done. I'm not unsympathetic to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But in the other subdivision, they pulled together. They had one person who was handling all of that and communicated with the other people. It seemed to work. They knew their neighbors. They got together. They said, here's some proposals. We're going to hire guy A. That person pulled the permits. The city's not saying you individually have to pull the permits. If you hire somebody, you can have them pull the permit.
Yes.
So it's not like people are doing that individually.
I know. I think it is also just kind of a complicated thing for residents to get their head around about how this works and trying to coordinate. So again, with the amount of residents who have to do this and are trying to coordinate and are really stressed out, this is a lot for them to try to figure this out. So I don't know if there's extra supports to be added, but the residents I talk to are just confused. Like, I don't know how to access this. I don't know how to, and then not every neighbor can coordinate with their, with the same contractor. So I'm just saying.
This is a good opportunity for neighbors to be talking to each other. I mean, we all live right there together.
Yeah, and that's what Michael and I are doing.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, this is part of the unprecedented nature. This is adding, a lot of residents are having to get, we're not expecting to have to do this and to coordinate in such a mass scale to try to get some type of financial relief. But yeah, you're right. It's been done in the past.
I mean, we've got a process by which you can get, how many people are you looking at to be a group? Is like 2 to 3 or?
3 would be a group permit.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's insurmountable.
A large document disclosing all of them, I would appreciate that anyway.
Yeah. So ladies in the back in the neighborhood, I'm going to give you an opportunity if you want to come up and say something, and the gentleman in the back, Tim, anybody else? If you want to come up and say something, this is your opportunity to do so. And then I'm going to shut it down and we're going to get some resolution. Thank you, Tim.
Tim
Don't
Howell.
forget to fill out a slip.
I'll
Later.
fill out a slip.
Later.
I'll fill out a slip. Tim Powell, McLaughlin Neighborhood Association.
So wait, are you representing the neighborhood association?
I am representing the neighborhood
Okay,
association.
all right.
And we had, first of all, we appreciate the fact that the city has, especially Public Works, has sat and talked to us for quite a bit about different potentially projects that we could put together. We have been working with some contractors who are willing to work with the city and develop like a list of potential customers and maybe do a group permit type of a thing. Again, the challenge is you've got 80 people or whatever, and trying to combine them all. I had a long conversation with the contractor, and he says, yeah, I've quoted a bunch of people, and the problem is everybody's waiting because nobody knows what's going to happen, right? And that's a big problem. So that speaks to extending the time frame, because all these things are great ideas, but the problem is we don't have enough time to get it done, and that's the real challenge. And so that's one thing I'd like to ask. The other thing I'd like to ask is some consideration. I think the loans, it's a great concept. I'm not sure would work. What I do think would work is if the city could co-opt with the homeowner, 20%, 50%, instead of a loan, just say, okay, you're gonna have to replace, I had to replace 22 panels. But if you had to replace 10 panels, maybe the city picks up 5 of those panels. And show of good faith, and the permit, if we could get the contractor to work with Public Works and get a list as you suggested, maybe we can come up with a good way to get a permit and knock that permit fee down to pretty much nothing, really. If you get 25 people on a permit, what would that cost be? What would that cost look like? And quite frankly, looking at the numbers, if you were to give up all these permits, it's not that much money that's out of the city's pocket right now. And it shows, to me, it would show a big leap of faith and a lot of support to the folks that are out there that are looking for help. So those are the things that I would like you to discuss further.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And do you want me to repeat the drill? Name and, okay, you know. Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Kelly Smith. I'm on staff at House of Moore Ministries on 6th and JQ Adams. Thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity. I just found out about this meeting today, so I feel a little unprepared. But the reimbursement program, I'm confused by that. I had not heard anything about that until today. And so how do we qualify for that? I mean, we're not a home. We are a nonprofit in the city limits, and I want to get alongside what's going on here. We just are so confused about what's going on, and I would love something in writing. If I could I go to the place that sent out this, the original Public Works thing? Can I go there and talk to somebody? Awesome. Also, these gentlemen, I agree completely. I have talked to 3 different contractors, and they're talking to me about having to set up to make a setup and then have somebody come and okay my setup and then do another setup and then have somebody come and okay that we can go ahead and pour. And I'm very confused. That's in none of my writing.
And I need to go and talk to the staff at Public Works.
And so I'm coming totally blindsided at this point. I just don't know where to get this information to make sure that we're following along correctly.
Is there information on what you received?
No, not according to...
No, I mean, is there contact information on what you received?
There is the contact information at the bottom. And I can go there and talk to these people?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You could also call them, and they will meet you out on site and walk you through what they found. So if you don't have time to come into the office, they can do it via phone or meet you on site.
Okay. I'm not going to receive any more comments. So, gentlemen, where do we want to go? We've got some suggestions for extending the time. We've got, let's maybe start with that. And Kelly, I need you to fill out one of those slips over there on the side when you come up to speak. So anybody have any thoughts about extending the time? And what would be, staff, what would be reasonable? We're talking 6 months, a year?
We're open. What's been brought tonight was to match what we've been doing in practice, which was the feedback we received at the most recent meeting. So we're open to, either a permanent extension or a temporary extension. I think we just want to know that when you provide us that timeline.
I'm just going to go down the line. Mr. Mitchell, any thoughts about that?
I'm just reading, and this is in item B. What's being proposed is if someone waits for the second letter and kind of runs everything out to the max, it's 6 months, right? That's what you brought forth, 180 days. 90 days, the permit's valid for 90 days. You get a first 60-day warning letter, you get a second warning letter, it's another 30 days, and then you have 90 days to do the work. So that's a total of 180 days, 6 months. Okay, so that's kind of the starting point. Now, the challenge is where we're at right now in the year. And 6 months from now, we're not going to be in construction season, and has been mentioned by a couple of people, there are folks waiting to see what's going to happen. And so they maybe haven't made those arrangements. So I would personally like to figure out a way that we could get this in some way, whether it's by extending the permit validity time longer than 90 days, so that it gets into next summer's construction season.
Or next spring,
Yeah,
depending on how mild or severe our weather is.
Yeah. So I would like to see it longer.
Adam, any thoughts about a time frame?
Yes, so I'm going to try and be as coherent as possible. As you know, I'm currently in the East Coast, and it is tomorrow. But
It's tomorrow here,
for the
too.
time, what was that?
I said it's tomorrow here too, for some of us.
So I am supportive of extending the time frame. I appreciate what Commissioner Mitchell said about where we are in the year, and so if that means looking at extending that further, then I would be open to that.
Scott?
In theory, I'm not against extending the time frame, but I'd ask our Assistant City Attorney again, what's the liability on the city if we do look at extending that time frame?
Thank you. So I think as Carrie has talked to you about at a few different points, once the sidewalk problem is known, the city's liability does increase. I mean, the city code places liability for maintaining sidewalks on the adjacent homeowner, but we have a situation here where the city has not only constructive notice, but actual notice of the need for sidewalk repairs, so there is some liability.
So that's the piece that just gives me some hesitation there.
Well, I think, again, we have extenuating circumstances, and I think we need to be as reasonable as we possibly can to allow for this work to be completed. And again, as was stated, we do have some people that are waiting. I would basically say, if you're watching this and you haven't received a second letter, that's where I think the city could come in and help with the coordination. I think that would be a good idea. I would agree with you, Mike, that we should extend it into this into the next season. Maybe, what is it? We're going to be heading into September. I would even say that the maximum I would be willing to extend it would be to next September, and that's it.
Yeah, I feel
thinking about construction, and I don't know, we could have a great spring and everything could be great, but we could have a horrible
Yeah, you're not wrong. And also, I think that we have options that we could explore that don't necessarily involve tearing out panels and replacing them through construction that I do want to discuss, that I think are relatively easy to enact that could work immediately, such as eliminating grinding restrictions. We talked about that.
We've got that as a proposal to deal with that. So that, I don't think we need to go any further in that. We've said, yes, we want to do that, and they're going to move forward with that.
So we've got that. I think that a temporary moratorium on collecting fees for the permitting, I would be in support of that. I'm not, public sidewalks are for a public good. I'm not particularly concerned with collecting the revenue piece on that in this. And I think if that's a small way we can help, we can do that. But I think these are things, again, the foam, right? We talked about that, and I understand, you know, it's new and there's hesitation on, you know, how durable the solution it is, but if it is appropriate to use and it's a substantially lower cost alternative to replacing the panel, I think that that's something that we should look at doing. But again, on extending the time, just again, with liability reasons, I'm hesitant.
Yeah, I think our liability is going to be minimal. I think we show that we're making forward progress on it, and I think that's basically our I'm not looking at it as an impediment. I'm looking at it as a way to provide some time frame relief. Thoughts about time frame extension? I just threw something out as just, you talk about the next construction season. I don't know what that is. I can't put an arm around to say, this is the construction season, because I don't know how that.
Well, I'm open to the conversation. I think what I have a hard time understanding is multiple times it's been mentioned that this is unforeseen. I don't understand why this is unforeseen or why it has been unforeseen. I'm curious as to what that means when we say that. And that this is an unusual circumstance. I don't know what that means. And I get that it's, you know, this neighborhood having this particular issue with a ton of complaints is unusual at this moment, but it's not unusual in the effect that it could happen with another neighborhood tomorrow or a year from now, which is why when we talked about the tree reimbursement program, which by the way was for people who, if people don't understand what that was, you know, it was citizens planted trees based on the city standard and they raised the sidewalks. So the city said, we'll reimburse some of that for fixing it because we felt like the city was responsible for at least some of those trees being planted. So I guess my question is also, if we extend the timeline, we're talking about extending the timeline between or past what is normally what we do in practice, right? Now, in practice, we extend the timelines beyond what we put in our letters, right? So at our last meeting, this whole commission, I didn't say anything, but at this last commission, we had a discussion about whether we want to change the wording of the letters. The letters, whether or not it's what we can't, I mean, I understand the letters go out basically legally, this is what we need to say, and here's the, the deadlines, but if in practice, we haven't ever followed those. The public doesn't know that, so when they get the letters, they come in, they're all, irritated, they don't know that they really have longer time than those letters. And now we're talking give them more time. I think the letters have been problematic in many, many years, and we still refuse to change those. I think, and even tonight, we have people that are still not understanding what the letters they got before, let alone getting a second letter or still confused. Why a letter doesn't go out immediately just saying, you have an issue with your sidewalks, contact Public Works at this person. It's the same person they contact, they get the same information. We tell them, here's our legal expectations, but this is our practice, this is what we do, this is what we're willing to do. We've never created that. And I think that's why it was so opposed to keep putting out minimum fires, because next year it's going to be a different neighborhood with a different problem with their sidewalks, saying, well, you did this for this neighborhood, you did this for this neighborhood, and we're trying to fix it. We can't fix it unless it's all fixed as a citywide program that we understand how it works, regardless of what the sidewalk issues are. We keep trying to put Band-Aids on it, and yet again, I've been through this conversation, I don't know how many times, which is why I'm like neglecting to sometimes speak about it or even vote on it, because we've been here many times. So why is this unforeseen? Why is this a shock? This has been an issue, and yes, there's other issues that cause sidewalks to raise, but we know that sidewalks are going to be an issue in this town. And if we continue the same practice by sending out the same letter that scares everybody in town with a reaction that we have to try to fix, then we're really not fixing the problem, because it's going to happen again a year from now with a different problem in a different neighborhood. And I think we have to be consistent. We have to try to figure it out. I'm open to figuring it out, but does that mean fixing the letters, fixing out, is there one contact person at Public Works so everyone contacts the same person, and we know that everyone's getting the same information and we're handling it in a better way, because we have to come up with a bigger solution for the future, because I can tell you this will happen again, and we'll be at the same questions. We won't fix anything.
Okay, so you didn't answer my question.
I didn't hear a question.
My question was, are you supportive at all extending the timeline?
Only if it's consistent citywide in the future, not for this special
I'm not
situation.
talking about the future, I'm talking
Well,
about
then my
this.
answer's no.
Okay, that's
I mean,
all I
that's
want,
my
that's
whole
all I
point.
wanted to know.
I don't know how we can do one
Yeah.
quick fix for one neighborhood. and
It's
then
not a
expect-
quick fix. We've been talking about this, and I'm just trying to go
Okay,
through.
so next
each-
year, if another neighborhood
I'm
comes
not
with the right
talking, I'm talking about the here and now.
Okay, well
I can't talk about what's going to happen next year or the year after that.
Then good luck. We'll be here another time fixing, trying to do it again.
Can I ask a clarifying question about
Please.
an extension? So would this be just for these permits or these issues that have been cited, or would this be for people in other neighborhoods that need to pull
I'm
permits?
talking
Is this-
about this particular circumstance that because we are.
I'm talking about citywide.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to support anything that does not apply
Okay,
to the
well,
whole city.
I can't get into.
Okay, then I would support that, because I think
can't get
that's
into
issue.
the other parts because of legal issues. Otherwise, I would love to have an extended conversation, but I had basically chatted with the manager, and he said, we're here tonight to try to come up with a solution. And I said, yes, I agree, even though I know it's going to be convoluted. So if we want to extend the time frame for everything, what would that be? If we're talking citywide, I'm just trying to keep the conversation moving and not get into, so what would that be, Michael?
I'm going to suggest that we stick with the 60-day time period to get the permit, but that the permit is valid for 180 days.
Okay, I would support that. Would you support that, Adam? Okay, Adam's supporting that.
And this would be
He said citywide.
citywide?
Yes.
As a, so this would be actually for item B, so we were talking about actually changing code?
Dina?
Yes, so item 9B was the code amendment. So if we want to adjust those dates, my recommendation is we bring back a clean exhibit to the next meeting.
Okay. All right.
So it'd be, so just to understand, it would be, so as of right now, right, the code says you have 60 days to get the permit, and then you're proposing 180 days to do the work.
That's what I
Yeah,
believe
as
Mike is
opposed
saying,
to-
yes.
That's my
As opposed
suggestion.
Yes,
to
that's Mike's
the
suggestion,
60.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have a consensus on that.
Okay, so that essentially you're adding 30 days to the timeline to do the work, but no additional days to get the permit.
We're adding 90 days. Sidewalk permit is valid for 90 days,
So
right?
we're at doubling the time frame. So 180.
On the red line version,
I'm sorry, I'm reading from the staff report,
okay.
and it says the sidewalk permit is valid for 90 days.
Yeah, that's what I read in the staff report as well.
Okay, so the 90 days becomes 180 days.
Yeah,
Right.
180, yes.
Right. Okay, so
And
we've had, no, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm going to make another suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
And this is not a code change.
Thank you.
This is along the lines of what libraries do when they waive fines for a short period of time to get books back. I'm going to propose, from whenever we can publicize it, a 60-day moratorium on the fee, citywide. Anybody?
For sidewalks specifically?
Yes, for the sidewalk, $207 or whatever it is. For the next 60 days, anybody in the city can pull a sidewalk repair permit at no charge. Not changing the code.
Yeah.
Offering it.
Can we do that?
These are currently adopted by resolution. Do we need a resolution to authorize that?
Thank you for clarifying that. You would need a resolution to have a 60-day amnesty period, which we could bring back at the next meeting.
Do we have any support for that?
If it were citywide, I would be in support of that.
Rocky?
Absolutely.
Adam?
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question, if I may.
Please.
Thank you, Mayor. Dana, can you go back to the slide talking about the revenue impacts? Because I was confused. The one yes, that one. So I'm confused why we would lose less revenue if we did all single permits and reimbursing 50% of the maximum existing program and expanding it, as opposed to doing all of the single permits with no reimbursement. Why would we be losing less revenue for the second option?
Because if 50% of those permits were the reimbursement program, they essentially receive a 50% discount on their permit fee.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's shown on the previous slide.
So it isn't just for the panel reimbursement itself?
Correct.
It's for the tree as well.
Okay, so you're requesting at your September 3rd meeting, a resolution for a 60-day permit waiver. So that would be effective on September 4th because it'll be a resolution and it'll be valid for 60 days.
So I'm personally not saying that. I would support, but they're saying that. I think 50% waiver for the tree thing, and then if you're doing the sidewalk, you get 50% reduction.
I also think that you could state the timeframe in which it would occur without having to be the day after the resolution's effective. You could state that in the resolution.
Give people some notice.
You know, like an October 1st or September 15th or whatever, time to allow for the publication and the notification.
I mean, we already allow, 50%. It would just be extending the 50% to cover the sidewalks.
I'm confused now. What are you proposing?
I just said, we already have a program that if you're using the program and you're replacing your panel because of a tree, it's 50%. Extend that to the sidewalk part as well, so it's 50%.
I'm not interested in that personally.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so you have 3 of them that are, and I think, are you supportive of that, Mr. Morrow? I'm not opposed to it, I'm always interested in making sure people have some skin in the game. So, yes, move that forward, then we've got a consensus of a slight moratorium, and there will be no extensions to that if we pass it. If we do that.
Would you like it brought back with it effective the next day, or do you want some,
We would rely on Mr. Lyman to get information out. We could also send information out to those people who are on that list.
I say make it the next day.
Starting the next day?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think, excuse me, Mayor,
ahead.
if I could, I actually think it's a better idea to wait a little bit of time, October, maybe September 15th, even to split the difference, just to get some notice out to people.
I agree. I think we need to, I think we definitely need to get the notice out, because we're gonna have somebody coming in here and say, nobody told me about it. You started it and I didn't know anything. We're still gonna get some of that, but
Mayor, could I ask a clarifying question also, just so that Dana understands? And this goes back to what Commissioner Mitchell proposed, which is, I jotted down 60 days to get your permit, but I'd like to explore 60 days from what are you thinking? Like, what is the trigger point that you're thinking of that starts that 60 days?
What's the trigger point we use now? It's when
The first notice. Yeah.
the letter
first
is,
notice.
yeah, the letter is starting the clock.
Thank you. So for people who have received the second notice, they have no, what, do we want an additional trigger point, or they're sort of, they've got their second notice?
How many second notices have gone out?
Five properties are in their second notice.
9?
Of those, 5 of the
Five.
89.
5 of 89, so not a lot. You said 5.
And then how long, when someone gets a second notice, do they have 30 more days to get their permit? I can't remember the exact, they have 30 days.
An additional 30 days to get the permit.
So
and
just to clarify, Commissioner Mitchell, you weren't wanting to extend to 60 days those people who are in the second notice period?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to extend the time to get the work. I want to keep the urgency of getting the permit.
Okay.
But extend the amount of time to get the work done.
Okay, so it sounds like no change to the current system of you've got 60 days to get your permit, but the change is on the back end for 180 days to have the work done.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And what that may do, that 60-day period, if people take advantage of it, that could create the list to work off of to try to get a mass work done to lower the cost for each individual homeowner. Not with the city.
Again,
Not the city making the payments, but the city maybe helping to coordinate from the list of new permits that we get.
I just have a concern about the 60 days in trying to get a contractor.
That's not 60 days, it's 180.
880, so I'm just concerned about what Tyson and Michael brought up with, people being semi-confused or partially confused, all the way confused, knowing that, they've got this time frame to try to coordinate with their neighbors, or somebody's going to manage that coordination to say, okay, here's your window. We need to do this. So basically, we're putting some of the responsibility back on, let's try to get ourselves together and do something so that we can help. I guess I would say if we're going to do the 60-day amnesty, then we need to include the 5 people that have already received their second notice. Maybe they get a shorter time frame, that you've already got your second notice. This is when you have to come in.
Well, I guess it would be, to me, anybody, because we're making it citywide, anybody who comes in during that 60-day period, regardless of where they are.
Okay, so you're
in the
because that's what
process,
she just asked, whether or not it applied to the people who got the second notice. And you said, no, it only applies to the people who got the first notice. So I just want to be clear. I think if you got a third notice, you're out of luck, so. So you're saying it includes everybody, including the ones that got the second notice in this particular batch?
For the amnesty, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I think the amnesty should apply to anybody seeking a permit for a sidewalk for that 60 days, whether they've gotten a notice or not.
Yeah, and wherever they
everybody's
live
gotten
in
the
city.
first notice.
No, what I'm saying is if there's somebody within the city that says, you know what, I do need to get this sidewalk repaired, I haven't been cited by
Yes.
code, but I'm going to go ahead and use this opportunity to save a couple $100 on a permit. Great.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
That clarified it. Okay. What else?
I don't want to give up on the interest-free loan idea.
I don't want to even go there. I don't think it's workable. I don't want to see our finance director like freak out. We're not a bank. You know, many times we get asked, I've heard this over and over again from our management staff. Unfortunately, we're not a bank.
Well, if I'm a developer and I have SDC fees, I can pay those over time. We're being a bank then.
Are we being a bank when we do that?
Essentially, yes, but the volume of.
But, he's got the but.
The volume of deferred SDCs is relatively small, and it's also large dollars, so it's.
We're talking thousands.
It's a different animal than say, a more consumer loan or.
Well, I wouldn't suggest that for somebody who has 1 or 2 panels to replace, but somebody say more, I mean, how many have more than, say,
3?
6? Because now you're talking about a close to $5,000 deal, probably.
I don't have those statistics with me.
Okay.
We've heard from some of the neighbors that alone is not really something they're interested in. We've talked about waiving, so that reduces the cost.
Well,
Talked about coordination with the city. I think, you know, given that it's the bewitching hour, I think we have done all we can do for now, and they're going to bring stuff back to us at our next meeting, which I think provides some reasonable amount of relief. So are we good?
Yeah, I have a question. If we do end up approving again this 60-day moratorium on permitting, is it reasonable to ask the city to contact anybody who's received notice saying, hey, by the way?
I already asked that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. They would
Yes.
be, yes.
So we could send a letter if we've made contact and we have, a phone number or an email, we could utilize that as well. So we'll utilize what resources we have. So those folks that have responded back and have had a communication with us.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion for any of this, or we've given staff direction and that's where we are? Okay. Okay.
Just staff directions, excuse me.
That's okay. All right. So, Mr. Acting City Manager, do we have any communications?
Are you moving beyond the 9B code?
Yes.
We have no communications.
Yes.
Let me
Well,
answer
some
your
of that
question.
stuff is going to get changed in the 9B code. I
Okay.
don't think we can do anything with it tonight.
Thank you. The direct answer to your question is no.
Okay, and I don't think any of us have any, and I would like to let Mr. Morrow go because he is about ready to die on the vine. So being no further business before the commission, I adjourn the meeting. Thank you.